request the Chair of the Council of Governors, Her Excellency Madam Anne Waiguru, to address us. Karibu, Mheshimiwa.
Your Excellency, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency Riggy Gachagua, my colleague governors who are present, led by our host, Governor of Nyeri, Waziri for Interior, Professor Kindiki, all elected leaders, members of Parliament, and Senate, led by our majority leader, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, the entire security sector that is represented and led by the IG, the DIG, and the RC. All protocols observed. Good afternoon. Your Excellency, allow me to start by thanking you for this initiative, and thank you most sincerely because as a Council of Governors, we had an opportunity to have a briefing on the issue of alcohol and substance abuse when we had our retreat. Your Excellency, during that retreat, if you recall, the governors were quite surprised because we were given not statistics just for the central region, but for the entire country. A lot of the times when the conversations come about alcohol abuse, especially, people refer to central Kenya. So my colleagues were very shocked at the way that this problem has cut across the nation. I thank you, Your Excellency, and I thank His Excellency, the President as well, for starting with the central region to come up with policies and initiatives to deal with this problem. Your Excellency, allow me to take a different approach. I will not give general remarks. I think I will make a comment from my experience as governor so that we can now probably start having a conversation on what is it that we can do now that we have seen what the problem is. Your Excellency, let us start with the admission. We have a problem. We have a very serious problem. We have a problem that we have always acknowledged that is there. We gather together, we look at the statistics, we say how serious this problem is, and then we go home and the problem continues. I think, Your Excellency, today we will do central Kenya in this country some justice if we walk out of this forum with tangible steps and solutions of what we can do. There are certain questions that were arising as we were looking at the statistics. For example, is it commendable? Does it look like we're working when we net more people with illegal or illicit brews? Shouldn't the problem be that there is actually no one to arrest because no one is making illicit brew? I think we need to start asking ourselves how we're measuring our performance. What is it that indicates that we have performed? The number of, I know there was one issue my colleague was whispering to me when they showed the statistics about single parents. And he said in Kirinyaga, our statistics were not looking very favorable. And he was trying to tell me the nature of the women in Kirinyaga. And especially that we do not wait to be proposed to. And we threaten that you either tell me in Kirinyaga, we say, you know? So the reason, so we're arguing whether the alcohol is actually the reason why there is an increase in single parenting. I think we need to look and delve very seriously, and on a more serious note, more seriously on the solutions. I'll give you my example of Kirinyaga County. You saw that I have very few bars and restaurants. But many of you who have been following this sector, you'll know I've had serious wars with bar owners in Kirinyaga. At the moment, I'm in court, and I think I have several court cases, because we started with a crackdown, and I must thank Your Excellency, the security sector in Kirinyaga, the national security sector led by the county commissioner. They work very well with us, and they did the rounds of ensuring that we're making sure the bars are adhering to the law in terms of the opening and closing times, and also ensuring they have licenses, because they had refused to pay licenses in excess of 100 million for the last 2 years. And yet they were operating. Some of them selling second generation alcohol and illegal brews. So we closed quite a number of them. Your Excellency, we did a great job with the enforcement. We partnered with the county commissioner, the police, our enforcement team, our committee on alcohol, and we managed to bring down the numbers. But Your Excellency, recently they went to court. And when they went to court, especially the ones that we had closed, they were given very little bail terms, 1,000, 2,000. The maximum, I think, got 8,000. And so what do? They pay, and then they continue. What did that do to our officers? They got demoralized, because these operations are carried out at night. They are taxing for the teams. But when you go around, and then after a week, somebody has a court order that they are allowed to actually continue until the case is finished, it brought a huge complication. So one of the proposals that I would make from where I sit, Your Excellency, is we understand the independence of the judiciary, but the judiciary is part of our society. They are also parents, and they also live in our communities. An engagement, a multi-sectoral engagement, where they see the statistics and understand the challenges of where we are coming from as the leadership, it would go a long way to help us. Your Excellency, we agree on the issue of the partnership between the national and the county, and adjusting our committee, especially on licensing. I think the critical issue of licensing, Your Excellency, must be looked at. We are the ones licensing, but we would embrace that joint licensing regime, because when we don't license, for example, in my county, they go and get support from other leaders. And those leaders put pressure on us on the issue of licensing. Then the issue of limiting the number of bars is going to be very tricky. But if a decision must be taken, Your Excellency, I think we should take a bold decision. How many bars, for example, should there be in Kagio, which only has 5,000 people? There should be a limit. Not every other shop should be a bar. Not every other shop should be a bar and restaurant. Not every restaurant should also be a bar and restaurant. And I think this will also help us quite a bit. Your Excellency, there are some places we should not even negotiate. Next to schools, Your Excellency, we should not have any bar or any drinking institution next, any drinking joint next to a learning institution. It should not be allowed. There should be designated places where it is far from our children, so that it's also not tempting as the children are going home, or they do not get to interact with those kind of people. So, Your Excellency, on the issues of legislation, we may suggest, to make it easier, maybe have one national legislation which every county customizes, or we all just have to comply with it, as opposed to every county having a separate legislation on what it is that they're licensing and what it is that they're not licensing. And Your Excellency, I say this because when the bar owners and me got into a conflict, the county government of Kirinyaga and the bar owners, if you remember, they actually told me that I am not being very good, and I'm not a very good governor, because my neighbor, one of my neighbors, is allowing them to do the things that I'm refusing to be done in Kirinyaga. And I said it in the media. I said, then go open your business in the neighbor's county. Don't come to force this county to change the laws because you want to be allowed to go beyond the hours and to also serve, let me say, second generational alcohol. So the issue of legislation that is cuts across the nation, a national legislation would be a great step so that we are not negotiating at this level. And Your Excellency, I'll push it a little further. Not just legislation saying how many bars, where they should be, what category etc., but even limiting the number. So you say, like we say for health centers, for example, we all know that we should have a health center every 7 kilometers, minimum. We can find a way of limiting the number of bars, especially per distance and per population. So everybody knows that beyond this distance, I do not expect to find drinking joint. Your Excellency, the final thing that I would want to suggest, and I hope that we'll all be able to collaborate, not just in central Kenya, but across the country, is the issue of bringing all the leaders, including all the leaders at the county level, to the table. Your Excellency, I know this meeting is mostly for policy makers and practitioners, but I will tell you the greatest help that I have had in the fight against illicit brews in Kirinyaga has been from my county assembly. And the reason being, even when they tried to call the county assembly, even when they tried to lobby to change our legislation at the county level, because I had already engaged them and they were supporting, they refused. And so Kirinyaga has been able to retain the numbers the way they are. So I will request you, Your Excellency, you may consider calling the MCAs, not just the representative by the Speaker and the Majority Leader, but the members of the County Assembly in this region and everywhere to understand the importance of adopting the legislation as is from the national government. I think that will go a very long way to save on time and to also enable us to have quick wins to ensuring that we are curbing the menace for drug and substance abuse. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much, Chair, Council of Governors.